you were asking about my relationship with marijuana. It's grown over the years to the point where if I have it now, I smoke it all the time. It's basically the long and the short of it. I smoke it till it's gone because I find it so nice. And then when it starts to fade, I go, oh, this isn't quite so nice. So I'll just have some more, and then I end up sort of waking up in the morning and smoking all day and falling asleep. And then that, I don't think that's good. That's not a good thing, because then it becomes the norm. It's just normal. I'll have a smoke before I go to the shops. So I'm happily in a happy little buzz walking around the shops. But as I come back from the shops, it's wearing off. So it's get into the house, have another smoke, keep things on that even keel. But of course, it's still illegal here, so it's not considered good form to walk around smelling of marijuana. It's not like something that you can just brush off. And I don't think the police here are particularly bothered. I don't think they're not looking to prosecute individual users, but they do prosecute dealers. One of my nephew's friends got done, but he was involved in a big drug cartel type thing, and it wasn't good. It wasn't a good scenario. There's a lot more than that going on, In fact, my nephew said to me, I could tell you the full story if you want. He said, but you would be horrified. And I said, no, don't tell me I don't want to know the whole story. So yeah, they're still looking they still fly helicopters over the cities looking for hot patches to see if they can find farms. Yeah. There's that.
Hard to imagine, It's hard to imagine that's the thing, even though it wasn't that long ago they were doing that here too.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy. I mean, it really is. I mean, I think the best way to deal with it is to legitimize it, and so that you know what you're getting. Because one of the big problems is you never know what you're getting. It's not like I can ask for a brand or find my favorite brand. Everything I get is different from everything that came before. And there's one that I really like, which I can never remember the names of them, but there's the different forms that it comes in. There's one I like and one I don't, and it seems the one I don't is the one that seems to be more prevalent, so it's not as good. But yeah, I mean, I'm reasonably happy without it. I mean, I'm not needing it, but there's just times when, in fact, I'll tell you a stupid thing. The Dolby Atmos thing has helped me a lot, because one of the reasons that I like smoking is that it makes music sound great. I hear things I never hear otherwise. It's just for the listeners at home, Chris has his thumbs up at that point. It makes music sound great, and it's just like, oh wow, listen to how great that music is. But Dolby Atmos is actually like, it gives me the same effect, which is weird. And a lot of people say they don't like Dolby Atmos because it's too trebly. I can't hear the fucking treble, so it's fine. I don't hear above 10k, so if there's some shit going on up there with Dolby Atmos, I'm not hearing it, so that's good. So Dolby Atmos makes everything, it's amazing. Especially that Stephen Wilson album that's designed for it is just, it's great. There's a big difference when you switch it off. So I listen quite a lot using that, and it's great for games as well. If I'm playing games on headphones, which I do, it puts the position of the sound, and it's a weird one because I used to do gaming on an Xbox 360 with a surround system, and it was really good. You had the speakers at the back and the front, and you could hear enemies behind you very, very clearly. Well, this is different. What it does is there are no speakers, of course, because you've only got the speakers in your headphones, so there's no speaker to listen to. So to begin with, you might think, oh, I'm not really hearing any 3D audio. I think that was my initial reaction to it. But when you play a game, you are suddenly aware that's behind me, but you're not hearing the speakers. And what I was hearing before with the 4 sort of surround speakers was I was listening to the speakers. I could hear the speaker working, and that was what was giving me the clue. But this simulates the actual 3D audio, not the speakers. The speakers are there in the full sort of 11 speaker system. The speakers are there to emulate reality. So you shouldn't actually hear sound coming from a speaker. So the headphone thing does that too, through weird sort of processing. It does it for games, it does it for movies, and it does it for music. There's different settings. So I think the app costs like 20 quid or something to get for your PC, and it's a great way to listen to music. Of course, you can't use it when you're mixing and things like that because it throws everything off. so I switch it off for that. And I don't think it works with the ASIO connection anyway. But for listening to YouTube and playing games, it's great. So I haven't had that yearning to listen to stuff while I'm stoned. So that's helped. That's helped a lot. Yeah. Weird, isn't it?
It is. What, that music has always been my excuse to become like, to let marijuana flood my life when I open the doors again. Because this would be my 5th time quitting marijuana, I think. And part of me wants this to be no more marijuana ever. Because I'm 40 years old now, and I've yet to manage to maintain a relationship with marijuana that I am satisfied with. So I don't want to be 45 and having that same thought, and then 50 having that same thought, And I'd love to be able to have the relationship where I smoke pot on a Saturday and then don't touch it for a month, But I find because of the kind of weed people want, like you're talking about, the stuff that's available isn't stuff that's good for someone that wants to smoke it once in a while. It's too maddening. I have paranoid delusions. I have all these irrational feelings and thoughts surrounded around it that mess up the good parts of it, like listening to music, But what ends up happening though is I'll get back into it and I'll find myself being paranoid and losing my mind a little bit, and then I'll come into my studio and start messing around with my synthesizers or listening to music, and then all that paranoia dissolves, and all I got left is the positive effects, right? So then I tell myself, well, I'll just smoke weed because I'm going to write music, and then it becomes this thing where I'm down here writing music all the time, which I can do regardless, whether I'm stoned or not, and it gives me a certain care of attention to something that I've noticed that I write music that's more annoying when I'm stoned. Like, it might sound great to some...
What does that mean? More annoying to other people or more annoying to you?
Yeah, well, like something I might, like, I've, especially with my newest records, I try really hard not to spend too much time doing one thing. I try and have a lot more changes and I try and make the music more exciting. Whereas if I'm stoned, I can literally make a sound for 25 minutes and be completely immersed in it.
I get you. Yeah, I get you.
And I think, man, everybody's going to love this. Like, and then I realize, no, they won't. Some people might, especially people who are stoned.
Yeah.
Like one day I was playing, I have a DJ turntable here on my desk, and I put on it was a sample album from Texaco gas stations. It was like on one side, it has instructions on how to sell people credit cards. And then from like the 70s. And then the other side, it was like an advertisement for Columbia Records showing off a bunch of like, here's some Dave Brubeck. Here's some a bunch of different jazz stuff, Yeah. And they'll play a song for 2 minutes and then cut it off. And this announcer talks about like, it's fun for the whole family and all this weird shit. Yeah. So I had this record the one day and I just kept like making it go forward and backwards. And I was like, and I put some delay on it. So I'm sitting in my room and just hear like this, and it's all this phasing and weird shit going on. And I'm just loving it. And Megan's in here behind me. I didn't know she's in here. I guess she came in here and just stood here for like 10 minutes listening to me do this shit for like, and she goes, "You're fucking stoned." And I was like, yeah, I'm really stoned right now. Yeah. Freshly stoned.
Yeah.
And then it made me realize that like, so sometimes to get that out of me, I have to be stoned to like go to that place to bring the gems out of it. But at the same time, there's very little to be gained from it, I think, at least at this point in my life, in that regard. So I'm struggling with it because I'm also noticed, okay, I was a daily smoker for 17 years at one point. Actually, it was even longer than that. Sorry, no. I started smoking daily when I was 17. And I took my first break when I was like in my mid-30s. So that's more than 17 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I went for like a large chunk of my life where I smoked marijuana every single day. And the only exception would be is if I was like in a country where I couldn't bring it with me and I couldn't find it. Like I was in Mexico or something and I couldn't find weed for a couple of days. But otherwise, every single day. And to the point where like, it was kind of haunting to me. Like I didn't realize how much of an effect it was having on me because I was stoned all the time. Right. So, because marijuana, especially when you're habitual doing it, you don't really come down from it. You're always got a glaze of stonedness going on that you don't realize is there until you quit for a while. Right.
Yeah. And
then the first time I quit weed, it wasn't because I wanted to get rid of weed out of my life. I just wanted to experience smoking weed for the first time again. So I knew the only way to do that is I had to step away from it for at least 3 months. Right. So I did that. I took like a 4-month break, and then I was tripping on acid with a friend, and we smoked some weed, like some really, really like high grade weed. And it sent me on an 8-hour psychosis trip where I was like, that's where I wrote that album Forever. right? I thought I was trapped in this space forever. And so I came out of it the next day and wrote this whole album, inspired by this night of losing my mind, being stuck in what I refer to as the forever place. But it was filled with dread. It was filled with this negative feelings isn't universal to marijuana, right? Like not everybody feels negative when they smoke marijuana, but what I was doing is I was analyzing my life and thinking about all the things I did stoned. Like I bought my first house stoned, right? Like I went to school stoned. I picked the college I was going to go to stoned. I picked my career when I was stoned, and I realized that like every single major decision I ever made in my life was clouded with this judgment that it only happens, when I'm stoned, and I'm thinking like, how would my life been different if I wasn't a stoner? Like, what would my bank account look like? What would my house look like? What would my wife look like? What kind of car would I drive? What kind of music would I listen to? And I started to think that like my entire being was sort of wrapped around this plant, which might be true, might not be true, and I was expressing these thoughts to my friend who was there with me that night. And he's going like, you're wrong, man. Like you're very like, people look up to you. And I'm like, yeah, but think about how much they could look up to me if I wasn't a stoner. I'd be, and I still feel that way to a certain degree. So I wasn't getting what I wanted. I wasn't getting this first marijuana experience back. I was getting this new experience I wasn't prepared for. But I started smoking marijuana daily again. And after like a week, all those feelings went away and I was back to my old self. Right, which I wasn't happy with. So I did that for like 9 months and then quit again, and then decided, okay, when I smoke again, I'm gonna be in a good mindset and I won't let this happen to me again, right? And then I did it, and the same thing happened again, and it's happened. So the last time I started getting back into marijuana, I actually didn't smoke it. I ate it. I did edibles. I thought, you know what, edibles are different. Maybe this will be different, and it was. I didn't find it nearly as terrifying. I got really high, but I didn't feel as so much doom and dread this time. And so that was kind of nice. And I thought, okay, but now don't smoke it every day. Smoke it on the weekend. Smoke it once a month. And I kept making excuses for it. I'm going to write music. Jeff Beck is dead. Whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm starting, and like I've talked about this before, but like God bless YouTube. It's for some people, I think if you're willing to type things into YouTube and just don't let the recommended algorithm dictate how you experience YouTube. And I know you and I have very similar YouTube feeds because you often share videos with me I just watched.
Yes, It must be that it must be because we're watching the same kinds of videos, we're getting the same recommendations, yeah.
Exactly, right? But sometimes YouTube will recommend me a video I wouldn't normally pick. But and YouTube has been showing me videos a lot last year about people like myself who've given up marijuana for good and how positive it has been for them, And I feel like that's one of those things where the algorithm's reaching out to me and going like, hey, I think you should watch this. This is a video for you. And I look at the comment sections and I see all the ignorance. I see all the people, like 20-year-old versions of myself going like, why does it have to be so extreme? Why does it have to be all the marijuana or none of the marijuana? Why can't it be some of the marijuana? And it's going like, and I'm going like, well, you'll figure it out one day too. Maybe you won't. I don't know. It's hard to rationalize with that.